Hey soccer friends, I just want to give a shout out to our partner, Team Player. They are changing the game on how you find the perfect soccer team for your player. Parents, this means no more endless social media scrolling to find information on teams. With Team Player, everything you need to know is just a few clicks away. It's simple, straightforward, and lets you find the best coach and team for your player without any of the usual headaches. And coaches, we all know how tough it can be to get your team noticed, but when you subscribe to one of Team Player's team plans, you instantly get access to set up an online team profile that allows you to reach more potential players and showcase what your team is all about. It's super easy and lets players and parents see why your team could be the right fit for them. And if you sign up using the promo code PITCH, you can try any team plan free for 1 month. So whether you're managing a team or searching for one, come on over to www.teamplayer.us. That is TEAMPLAYR.US. And come give Team Player a look. Family-owned Soccer Innovation is your go-to source for top quality equipment. Whether you're a player, a supportive family member, or a dedicated coach, they have everything you need to elevate your game. For players, their innovative equipment are designed to boost your skills and performance on the pitch. From their agility cones to their portable goals, they have you covered. And family members, they offer durable equipment that's built to last because we know your support is critical to your player. Coaches, trust me, they can provide the equipment you need to run effective training sessions and shape the next generation of soccer players. Visit Soccer Innovations at soccerinnovations.com to start elevating your game with them. And if you use the code PITCH, PITCH, you can receive up to 10% off your next order.
Welcome back to Chat by the Pitch. This is Ian Babcock, your host. This week I have part 2 with Coach CJ with DFW United. So let's start this chat and head to the pitch.
I've been asking, you'd be amazed. I've talked to several people about this on this side of town, and it comes down to other avenues now. That is where it gets interesting. But you're right. On this side of town, it's very hard to find good soccer fields that are built well, that don't close.
Have you seen the new 11v11 park down at KYA? The new turf down there?
Yes.
Oh, it's like a carpet. It's amazing down there. But the KYA don't allow clubs to use it.
It's only for the Keller Soccer Association,
which is understandable. I like they're trying to keep it separate, but they could make a lot of money and generate that back end and they could make KYA a whole club. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but it also takes away from their mission statement within the community of what they want to do. And I think that's what they want to. That's what they want to be. They want to be a true rec organization, or what we would, if everywhere else, a grassroots organization, and truly trying to make soccer and them an entryway into the soccer world, and possibly the place where kids continue to play that might not be able to make it in the club world, but still love to play.
No, and I respect that, because it does get quite interesting when they go into the club world's very interesting, put it that way.
Yes. So as we're going through this process, now you have your teams. We've talked about your 2013 teams. I don't know much more about your other age groups just because those are the age groups that touched my kid. How much success have you had in the last year? And success doesn't mean, I'll put it out there and I'll be the first one to say it, W's. It is understanding the game, understanding what it means to move into space, or finally keeping their head up when they're dribbling, or keeping their head up when they receive the ball.
I would like to honestly thank all my coaching staff, and thanks to the kids for buying in. That we've had a fantastic season. The little to resources that we have, and what I mean by resources is, if all the other clubs that we play against can have 15, 16, 17, 18 kids in the roster that can pull from there, we don't have that luxury. So what we've achieved this year is absolutely fantastic. And every player and every single team has give 100%. With that being said, we've never really had a team that hasn't been successful. since we started the club. And that's down to the staff, it's down to the kids buying in, obviously the parents buying in. So I can't truly say that we've never had an unsuccessful season. There's always things we can work on, but the groups that I have from the 08s all the way down to the 16s have had fantastic. We've never had a losing season, if that makes sense.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. So with the future coming up and everything else, this upcoming tryout season, there's a lot there coming up. As a club, this is something I'm putting it out there, so it forces me to do this now because this will be released here relatively soon. And my goal this year is to sit down with North Texas Soccer Association and actually lay it out there. As a parent, I'm tired of all the malarkey, BS, whatever you want to call it, that's out there. You have 72 hours to make a decision. We've talked about this in the past, how you're not a fan of that. The pressure, it's figuring out what's best for the player. Just in this conversation we've had, you've really laid that out there. How do you feel parents should be doing in this upcoming tryout? I feel they should give you a tryout. Small independent clubs hold a great place in my heart. That's what my daughter plays for. My son does play for a large club in the Metroplex because we chase the coach. We don't chase the badge.
Yeah, it goes back to your question, what did you define as success? I firmly believe that every player in my club got better this year. Every single player. And especially the kids who have moved on to the middle school age. Those kids have, and I'm going to talk about on the girls' side, those kids have developed into young women now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they have boomed in confidence. They've boomed in just kind of how they're carrying themselves. Obviously, there's a couple of them they're definitely sassy. Don't get me wrong, but that's because they're teenage girls. But all the kids have grown off the field as well, and I think I just want to put that in chat that's also very important. I've seen so many kids this year grow up, if that makes sense, and I've been fortunate enough to. A lot of the kids that I've coached for a very, very long time, taking them from 4v4 to 7v7 to 9v9 to 11v11. So I've coached some kids since they were still in nappies, or diapers as you call it here. And now they're going into middle school. It's been a really, really good year for growth, not only from winning games, because a lot of my teams do win games, don't get me wrong, but they're just grown up, and it's amazing to see. I was going to get into this from what parents should be looking for. When we last spoke, I'm still going to be an independent club, but I've sat down and really thought about this. I have made a partnership with a club so I can have the ECNL platforms.
There's nothing wrong with that. I know that there's several great coaches in the area and several great clubs that I don't know if you want to call it a co-op or whatever you want to call it, of clubs where they get to wear a unified name but keep their badge, whatever you want to call it, or wear their jerseys but they're underneath the same umbrella so they can actually compete on these higher levels, because at the end of the day, if you can't furnish two teams or one team per age group, you're not allowed in the club and the league. Sorry for saying club, but the good old boys club of the league. And as a parent, it drives me absolutely crazy because you're not getting the best. You're only getting the ones that are capable of having the money.
100%. And we spoke about that. We've spoke about that several times. But I see the way the game's going, and I see what's going on. I believe I know what's going on at the top. And the independent clubs, if you don't have this platform, the way we talk about ego, right? We talked about ego at the beginning of this interview. If parents don't have those letters after their team name, you're not going to have a team. It's completely changed now.
That's the thing I honestly don't get as a parent. I've never understood the want to chase. And I'm going to put it out there right now. So if you're playing in ECNL, the top league, it's $15,000 to $25,000 just to play.
Yeah.
That's just to play soccer. And as a family, if you're looking at this as a numbers game, just put it out there. Majority of the kids that are doing that are not getting scholarships.
No, it's the ones that have money, right? I mean, let's call it what it is. Honestly, it kills me, mate. It absolutely kills me because it shouldn't be that way. It should not be this way.
So let's get back to your big partnership that you're working on right now. So you're partnering with a club to get into which league?
We're going to do ECNL-RL NTX in pre-ECNL.
Awesome.
We had the opportunity to go do the RL and the ones that had all the travel. And I said to my parents, we've grown this thing together organically from day one. We started the club. We've always celebrated the small wins. We won, for example, my 08s, we won the Premier, the back in the day before us got crazy, was we won the Plano League, and then we won the Classic League, and we got promoted through that. And then my second wave of kids came through, which was my 11s. We qualified for the Classic League, and then my dad's 13s qualified for the Classic League. So instead of jumping in, I told the parents, let's do this organically, as I just said, and we'll go from, let's go into NTX, let's go keep it competing there, keep it more local. Let's make a commitment to do 2 showcases each side, so we do get a little travel so the kids can bond, etc. Maybe do another out-of-town tournament, and then see how we do. Dip our toes in, grow it, and then next year if we do well, let's go into the RL. If we do well, I want the kids to be able to work to something. I want the parents to be able to work for something, to hold their kids accountable as well. Does that make sense? Because there's too many teams that just get this status because they've got a big club name. That's not teaching the kids anything. That's creating an environment where everyone's going to get an argument. Oh, my kid's better than your kid, and your kid, and oh, your kid's holding the team back, or your kid should be getting more playing time than my kid, because they're so focused on the pressure of winning in that league, because it all, again, goes back to ego. So I'd like to think that the parents that decide to stay with me through this process, we're going to grow it properly and holding the kids for them to be able to achieve that promotion, that they're working towards a plan that, hey, we're going to do well this season, then we're going to move up to the next one and then the next one, and we're going to do this the right way.
You said a couple of things there, so I wrote them down. So you have showcases. That is huge. Anyone that understands, showcases are where it matters. It's not the league, in my opinion. I'm just a parent here, but
Yep.
showcases where you can actually show off your players. It's not more of a, exactly as it sounds, you get 4 games to show off. Sometimes it's an actual real tournament, but a lot of times it's just 4 games showing the talent that you have to people of looking in, I guess this way of putting it into for scouting.
Yeah.
And then you said growing organically into this. I think too many parents don't understand that. The rest of the world is promotion relegation. I'll always give a shout out to Classic League for this. They're the only league I have found in the country that truly does promotion relegation and does it the way they do it. I think there's maybe, I shouldn't say they only, I think there's 2 other in the whole United States that does promotion relegation. If that tells you anyone why I will always promote Classic League, is because the best of the best have to rise to the top.
Yep.
It's just not something that happens overnight. You're just given a spot because you're a big club, like you said.
Yep. It's very, I just feel as a society nowadays, we just get things too easy. We just get things far too easy, and I get things too easy sometimes too. I'm not saying that I'm on this different level. I get things too easy too. I always like to work for it. The showcases are great, but I want the parents to understand that no college coach is going to pick your kid up from watching them 4 times in a tournament. The coaches are going to do the due diligence, but they're not just looking at, and I want to be very clear on this, and parents know this too, they know the deal. They're not just looking at, oh, how good your kid is in the game. They're looking at how you warm up. They're looking if you've tied your shoelaces. They're looking if you tucked your jersey in. They're looking at how you talk to, how you go back and forth with your coach. They're watching you to see how your parents are. Now, let me say that again. These college coaches are watching the players' parents as well, because they're not just recruiting the kid, they're recruiting their parents.
Yep.
No matter how, if anybody wants to argue me with that, they can. I'd love to have that argument, but they're watching every single move. And obviously, I've not been at any ECNL events yet, any showcases. So I'm personally looking forward to getting involved in that and seeing what's out there. I go back to my old DA days, where obviously, if his parents listeners are new, the Development Academy, when you had a lot of MLS teams and you had some of the best teams in the country. Yeah, they had some fantastic coaches come and watch, and there was a lot of coaches there. But I've heard that this is a next level thing, so I'm looking forward to that. But I think what's really important as well is coaches educate the parents on what's next.
I'm laughing because that's probably the hardest thing I think anyone will ever have to do is better educate parents.
And again, I'm not the. I want to be very clear on this. I am not the best at doing that because over the years, I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. To be really quite frank with you, that's why with doing this new, the new ECNL stuff, I'm looking forward to educating parents because I feel like it's a level above what we've been doing now, and I'm looking forward to these conversations. Whether they're positive or negative, I am looking forward to the conversations.
It's going to be a roller coaster. I'll leave it at that way.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm ready to ride the wave. If anybody knows me, I don't shy away from my challenge. I'm really looking forward to this new wave of life.
So with going into ECNL-RL NTX, how do you feel your players will perform? Because I have my opinion on it because I've watched teams.
I've already done I'm going to be honest with you. I've already done my due diligence. I've called a lot of coaches that are in it. I've talked to them, not only in Texas. I've actually talked to coaches in other parts of the United States. But let's talk about NTX. I've been told through different avenues that it's just a glorified classic league.
I always chuckled because if you start watching the tournaments and the leagues that are playing, and you'll have teams that are actually playing in D1 Classic and getting their butts handed to them and just staying there in the top the only two divisions, I guess, once you're playing 11v11, and they go to RL and they do well in RL. I'm like, the competition is supposed to be better and greater. No offense to the league. It's just like, I don't know if you call it even a glorified classic league. I just find it to be, in my opinion, a money grab as a parent. I'll say it so if you don't feel the same way, but it's a process. You have to work your way up into the system.
I'll be honest with you. I had to do it because if I didn't do it now, I was going to lose my club. That's how parents nowadays want this status.
I'll be the first one to say this. The two of us, I can tell you now, I know more coaches now that have said that they have placed kids in college and they've never played an ECNL.
Yep. I've tried to say it. I've tried, and I was losing. It was getting to the point where people have played for me for 6 years, and they were coming up to me before I made this partnership and said, "Hey, listen, if you don't have ECNL, I'm out, or ECRL, whatever you want, whatever,
right,
whatever else. If you don't have this platform, I'm out."
And I wish parents would actually take a step back and look at it as what it is. Soccer in the United States, unfortunately, is.
But who's going to do that though? Because
there's a lot of.
They're not going to believe me because they're just going to say, "You're just trying to keep my kid in your club." The classic comments that I had a couple of years ago was like, "Oh, we've outgrown this team." I'm like, no.
I have friends that play in ECNL. They fly cross country to go play in a game. They fly to St. Louis, play their 2 games there. They stomp the living daylights out of the teams. They come back and play in a tournament, or maybe they play in 2 leagues, and they get their butts handed to them in the lower division league here in Texas. That's a local league because it's small independent clubs that are developing players that parents, that's all they can afford, because at the end of the day, and I guarantee you, which kid will probably get the scholarship is not always the ECNL. They might have the better access to showcases, but that's a conversation that parents need to understand and ask. Like, how many showcases are you doing a year to get my kid in front of coaches? And what showcases?
Some of the parents out there want 2015, 16, and 17s doing showcases. Like, what?
Like, what? No, showcases like U13, like 8th grade. Let's start talking grade. Coaches won't even look at a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old yet. It's beyond the scope. It's my big, like, we as parents in our house, and I think my wife and I are on the same page with this. It's not about the team or the badge. It's about finding the right coach and Landon having his chance to prove himself.
I know a lot. It's funny you say that. A lot of parents have stayed with me a long time because they believed in me, but I've also evolved as well. I've also changed as well. My expectations have changed because people I felt like a lot of parents out there don't understand how much work that these coaches are putting into their kids. And I'm not just talking about, again, what I've mentioned before about coaching them the game. I'm talking about bonding with these kids. I'm very big on that. It's in educating these kids from a different lens, away from mum and dad. Mum and dad are doing the best they can with parenting. When it comes to the coaching aspect, a different lens that they can understand is huge. And I feel I can't stop talking about that. I know I've mentioned it 5 times, but it's just something that's big for me. Big for me.
No, it is, because at the end of the day, I'll use my son. He spends 6 hours a week with his coach just
Yeah.
in training.
Yeah.
And that's a big chunk of time. I have my
Huge.
kid from 5 o'clock, or actually I have him from about 3:30 until about 5 o'clock most days. And then after that, they're at their activities until 6, 7 o'clock at night, sometimes 8:30, depending which kid it is and what night of the week it is. And then it's bedtime. And then we get weekend time in the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going to their activities. We don't get enough time. And coaches do have that bond. I think when you start listening to these coaches that are out there and what they're talking about, they don't talk about, how do I describe this? They can read the body language when they're walking up to the field.
Yeah.
And how they're tying their boots when they're putting them on when they're sitting on the bench. They already know if that player's having a good day or a bad day. And they'll ask, what's going on? Like, how's your day? And they already know the answer just by the body language of them walking up. And this is where it separates the business side to the developmental side of the game. And this is where parents have to start truly understanding is, even at the pro level, the coaches know. It may not be the head coach. It might be the assistant coach. They have bonded with that player well enough to know. And this is where I forgot to ask earlier, and this is part of your club philosophy and core. Because it goes back to this conversation right now, is how many coaches, I said that wrong. How many teams does each coach for themselves? Is it one coach to one team, or 2 teams, or 3 teams, or what's the ratio roughly?
I would say the average ratio is 2 teams per coach.
And I personally think that's a great number, because it
But
goes
that's
back
because we're a smaller club. If I was a Sting or a Solar or a Texans and it was my only job, I might have 3 and 4. Does that make sense?
Right, but it also goes back to my next comment, what we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 4 teams of 20 players, that's 80 kids you have to know.
Yeah.
And how do you get to know 80 kids? And I'll say this, parents, if you're listening to this, you need to have a coach that knows your players within 3 months.
Yeah.
That they can read your player and have a true connection within 3 months. If they can't do that in the first 3 months, it's time to start looking elsewhere. Unless your kid is one of these very withdrawn kids that love to play sports, but they are not social. But even then, the coach should be able to break down those barriers very quickly with your player, because they have a passion together. They have that love of soccer.
No, definitely. For myself personally, I like to be on every roster in the club, and I do try my best. It's very hard when there's like rainouts and there's so many different complexes that we have to go and play, but I really try my best to be at all the games as much as possible. But it's been really hard the last 2 years to be at the games, because one team's in Melissa and one team's in the Colony, and then one team's down in Gateway, and then one team's at UTD, and then one team's at Richmond College. I'm trying my best. I try and make sure, and you can hold me to this, every time I get to the facility, I try and give every kid a fist pump or a high. And I try my absolute best.
And I'm not going to tell you this right now. I have been to so many practices where I watch coaches and the coach is still setting up training. Me as a parent, that's frustrating, because if training starts at 5:30, training starts at 5:30. The coach should be all done setting up for training about 10 minutes before that time frame, so he can welcome the players.
You're going to look down. You're going to look down at me, because sometimes I'm rolling in late because of traffic. Not late as in past the time, but late to me is 5 minutes to or 10 minutes to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I'm rolling in at that time, I'm like sweating in the car. I'm like, oh no, I want to be set up. I want to get rocking and rolling. So I actually agree with you.
There are outside circumstances. I get that. But if you're there, let's say 80% of the time doing those things, welcoming them, having your own little, whatever it may be, your boot kick together or your handshake or whatever it may be, your fist bump, and you ask how they're doing. I think that is part of the game that's missing. And the more I have spent as a parent focusing on the coach side of the game,
Yeah.
trying to understand that aspect has better educated me as a parent. And I think that's something we have to do as parents, is understand both sides.
If it was my only job, I would be there an hour before. Honestly, an hour before. If coaching was my only job, I would be there an hour before.
It's so you can get all set up, get your head cleared before
Except
training.
everything, it would be so different. But I don't have 100 teams in the club, right? So I've only got 7 or 8. So it's
a little different.
It's a little bit different.
But you understand what I'm getting at. It's
100%.
I think that personal connection. I think the most successful coaches, I don't care if you're at a big club or a small club, or it's that personal bond with the players that are coming in. And the longer you have that, it's funny. I go to my daughter's practice and the coaches know every single player. They come up. It's like I go up to the coaches, and I've known that I go up to the 3 brothers at my daughter's club, and they all give me a big hug every time we see each other. We have a great little chat and we go on our way. Or my son's there and he's joining in with their 2013 girls team because they invite him over because they need an extra body.
Mm-hmm.
They know my son. They know my daughter. 3 brothers don't even coach this age group, but they can come up and have a full conversation with her.
I would tell you that I do know every name of kids players. I do know every kid's name in my club, though. I'll tell you that.
I can tell you that means more to those kids than anything else. I don't think parents understand that.
No.
I think maybe you can give me a little bit. I always talk about the difference between the United States and Europe, but their grassroots is completely different than our grassroots, and their, we'll call it, select age groups is completely different.
Yeah.
But you're not seeing 16 teams in the same age group within one club.
No.
So it's very easy for coaches to know every single player in their facility. When you only have, I'm going to be honest, if you have 2 teams for every age group, you're talking, I'm going to go do select only because that's much easier math, from 6 to 19, from 2013 or U13 to the U19, because or U18, whatever you want to call it. That's 6 years. You're talking about 30 kids times 6. It's not that many to memorize. You're talking a few hundred kids versus you get to these clubs, they have 5,000, 6,000 kids. FC Dallas alone, some crazy amount of number, like 8,000 kids or 6,000 kids from U13 and up.
That's a crazy number.
And I'm like, but they're the MLS club. You can't not expect them not to have the biggest numbers. But how do you get to know, and how do you get to see the talent within it and to actually recognize it? And that brings me into this next question I have. How do you recognize players within the club, or how do you recognize coaches within the club to promote this culture that you want to have?
It's a good question. So how do I recognize players with talent with the culture?
So how do you, like, a player does a good job. A lot of these clubs do shout outs on social media. Yeah. I personally have my opinion on that. My kid has his own Instagram account, but I'm in control of that.
Yeah.
The club is not. I'm putting his own face out there. But how do you recognize players when they do a good job? Is it something you guys do internally on the quiet side, or is it something you guys do in front of the whole club, or is it social media related?
I think per team basis, right? I think that if a kid's doing well in school, or a kid's birthday, or a kid scored a fantastic goal, or if a kid's been doing extra training and you can see it in a game, I think you give them a personal shout out when you address your team. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think per team, when you have them at training, you keep that in house for that per team, and you congratulate them like that, so they feel it from their peers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think social media is fantastic. I personally want to revamp my social media now. I want to make that where we do different things, and we do shout outs for teams and like player of the week and player of the month and all that kind of stuff. But I believe it or not, I actually shied away from that because I was getting more flack by doing it than good.
And that's the part.
You're picking that kid too many times, or you're doing that kid too many times. Oh, that's one of your favorites. Or we're leaving because that's your favorite kid because you talk to her parent more than you talk to this parent. I'm like, I'm running from facility to facility here. I'm just saying hello, how you doing, and then getting out of there. You know what I mean? It's one thing that, but I want to build. I want to believe it or not, and it's going into this concept. I want to create a new culture moving forward.
And that's hard to do.
It's the hardest thing to do.
I think my opinion drastically has changed the more I have read, the more I have listened. I recently, I don't know if you listened to it yet, but I did interview Jason Carney. Yeah. His book is great on paper, but on grass. I won't say the curse word. I'll try to keep the explicit out of this one. But he talks about the system and how it's broken and how to fix it and how to break it back down to rebuild it. He just didn't give the system's broken answer. He goes, this is how we fix it. It's servitude leadership. It's all these little things.
It needs to come from the top, right? There needs to be. It's such a double-edged sword. We all come up with we all have the problem of the money, but no solution. Because let's be really honest, if the parents weren't paying money, I don't think they would take it seriously.
This goes back to the conversation I've had in several interviews. It's parents in the United States do not value something unless it costs an arm and a leg.
Correct.
And here I am like,
correct.
But the other side of that equation, other side of that double-edged sword, is that could you imagine Americans sending their kids off to an academy and not being able to talk to the academy coaches? They get a report of how their kid is doing, and that's it.
I actually wouldn't mind that because it takes away a lot of issues.
It does. And this goes back to, we can talk about it later, but it goes back to setting expectations and what parents need to understand. But at the same time, you're not paying for it. The clubs pay. They're being sponsored by I'll take the EPL or Liga 1.
Yeah, Liverpool, yeah. But that's because the system is so looked at as so high. If you're that club, that's all they care about there. Does that make sense? All they care about back home is getting them into an academy, and then they're looked at as, those coaches are looked at as the gods of that. Like they're looked at as like they just let their kid go and have a leap of faith. I've not obviously been there in a long time, so I don't know if it's still like that now. You know, I don't know, but over here, the parents can't give up control because they're paying.
Right, they're paying the money. I think that's the problem. Even if they gave up control and they gave up the money,
it's never going to happen.
But they can't have control then. I think that's the number one problem. I look at,
as we just said,
right, it's a double-edged sword.
What way you look at it, what lens you look through it, it's always going to be a double-edged sword.
And it's because of how our culture is ingrained with soccer here in the United States.
And I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't have the answers. If I did, I would say I do not have. I'll not have the answers. I tell you what, though, I thought I did when I was 23, when I first started, or 24, when I first started this thing. I was, I'm going to change the culture. That's it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to be the one to change it. No.
The only way you change the culture is being the biggest, baddest club in the Metroplex and forcing the change to be. And that won't happen because there's too much money involved. And this is why I always...
As soon as a parent strokes $1 to the coach, it becomes a whole different ballgame. It's never going to change as much money is involved.
Listening to... How do I describe it? So, listening to how the MLS Next does it with FC Dallas, I have quite a few friends on that side of the world now, the longer I've done this. And the one thing they said, it's like, yeah, my kid has to tell me. They send out information to the parents. But he goes, if my kid doesn't relay the message to me, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I remember when I was in Houston, we always got a message out on a Thursday from the coach to say who was in the squad for Saturday and Sunday games. So I probably shouldn't say this, but so the kids don't hear it, but I used to be sitting in IT class every Thursday, refreshing my email.
Doesn't change today.
Just to see if I was in the squad for the weekend. Could you imagine that now? I over communicate and I still get people complaining. I use two sources of communication: TeamSnap and GroupMe. Where to be, why to be there, what color, and people still complain. And I'm thinking, back when I was playing, I was waiting on an email every Thursday to see if I was even in the squad. You know what I mean? So it's just funny how it's a funny environment, that's for sure.
And it hasn't changed. They're getting their messages via text messages or via email. The only thing is you don't have to refresh your email. It just magically appears in your inbox. But yeah, nothing has changed in that aspect. They get their roster and a lot of excitement. But this is where I think parents need to understand the conversation of where I'm going right now, is that if you teach the player to play the game today, as they progressed in their youth years and their academy and moving to the select side of the game, they can learn to survive the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's very key. I think that's the best quote I was ever given. If we teach our players to play the game, to survive the game, or survive the game, they can survive the sport. And the sport, I might have it backwards, but they learn how to survive the business. Because if they have the talent and the mental capacity, you said it very early on here that the game's 90% mental versus physical.
Yeah.
And
90,
I think
90% mental, 10% talent. That's what I call it now.
And I truly believe that, because if you look at the players that last the longest, if you take out Ronaldo and the Messis of the world,
Yep.
there's not many of them, but it's the ones that have the mental strength to survive.
Yeah. Then we can go down another rabbit hole, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole tonight. We can do this on another podcast. But nowadays, with the access that players from amateur to professional, especially with the kids, the access to social media platforms, you've got to be mentally tough. If you look at all the top players in the world, if you go on their Instagrams, half of them don't have the comments on.
Yes.
Because you just have people berating them. That's why I take about the mental side, right? These kids have to realise that it's not a nice world out there.
No, it's not. And I think you talked about I just think in the game wise, I talked to a couple of parents at my daughter's practice, and one dad made me refreshed my brain on the Ronaldo special that's out there on YouTube. It was done by some oil company. I think it was the backing of it. And it's watching him play. He's not watching what he's doing on the ground. His mind already has his body in sync. Muscle memory, whatever you want to call it, is already doing everything. So it allows him to scan, to do the things that he needs to do. And then I don't know how they take like off the pitch stuff, because at the end of the day, that's where kids get crucified.
If I was to go back in time now, but know what I know now in coaching, I would probably go to the top school for child psychology and become a child psychologist.
I think that's such an important aspect of the game. I can't
understand that what goes on in a kid's mind, just to help the kids get through everything. It's actually one thing I was like, what I want to do is different avenues from a real estate business. I want to, so say for example, I did like a community event, right? For example, I want to do like a pickleball tournament in my neighborhood, and the money generated goes to a mental health support for children. That's how big I am on the mental side of the game for the kids. That's what I would do.
I think that's so important, because I don't know. I think I struggle with this at times. I always love sharing this story because my son and I talk about it now. I always remind him that I hounded him for 3 weeks every day. Every time we got in the car to go training, every time we got back in the car after training, I hounded him. And finally, one day on the way to training, he goes, "Dad, be quiet." He's actually said, "Dad, shut up."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Why?" Mm-hmm. And he goes, "I'm done talking about it." I'm like, I turned around and I said, "Thank you." And he goes, "Why are you thanking me?" I'm like, "Bud, I've been doing this purposely. This was the advice I was given. I'm trying to create that open conversation between you and me as a parent to my child, so you understand this is a safe place. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to offend me. I might get frustrated. I'm not going to love you. I'm going to be proud of you because you're communicating with me. Mm-hmm. Don't be scared to open your mouth."
Yeah.
And now I have learned after games, my son, I won't bring it up unless he talks about it.
Yeah, I love that, yeah.
But I always will go over to him and find that moment, as sweaty as his head is, I'll give him a hug and kiss him on top of his head and say, "I love you, bud."
Yeah.
And to me as a parent, that's one of the most important things to do. And now he's picked up that when he doesn't hear that I'm proud of you or you did this and this well, he knows that when I don't say I'm proud of him, that means he had a bad attitude on the pitch.
Right.
And then if he knows I don't say he does something well, he knows that he didn't play well. I don't have to tell him, but I always make sure I tell him I love him.
Yeah, no, it's really important. To kind of conclude this topic of the chat we're having, it doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are, all these kids want to do is make their mum and dad proud.
Yep.
That's all they want to do. So if you're going crazy at them in the car and you're shouting at them from the sideline, you're just putting them under more pressure. They are playing these sports and they go to school and get their grades just to make mum and dad proud of them. And that doesn't go away, because I'm 31 years of age. I know that's young to some people, but I still want to make my mum and dad proud, everything that I do.
And that's hard.
Just goes to show that it never changes.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to have parents know or understand right now that's on your mind that you'd like to share that's important to you?
My biggest thing that I would tell parents now, and this is not just because I've got a smaller club and I'm not a part of the big organizations, I would just be telling me, be very careful. Don't become a little number. Don't become, when you have these super tryouts, when they have 100 kids and then they pick the top 15 from each tryout section and they become this team, and this team, and that. Just don't fall for the trap. Don't fall for things that are being told to you that are not going to come true. But then again, in the back of that, some parents out there need to feel that, so they can be brought down a level to truly understand what this is all about.
I like that. My last question to you, who has been the greatest influence on you as a player and now as a coach?
Greatest influence on me as a player was two people. It would be my big cousin Gary in Ohio and my dad. And as a coach would be the same, believe it or not. It would be, let me go back to a player. I wasn't as close with the coach down in Houston, but I thought James Clarkston, I still used it today. I still use some quotes that he used today. When I was down in Houston, I loved it down there. That's when Stu Holden was there, Jeff Cameron, Corey Ash, Mike Shabala, Brian Ching was there. And it was just a good environment. Like all the academy boys were really close, and we always looked up to the first team. And James Clarkson always said to me, "Talent got you here, hard work will keep you here." And I still use that quote to today. And then my dad was discipline and dedication. And then just that, I've just always kind of kept that in the back of my mind as I've started my companies and coaching. For my coaching career, obviously it would be my dad, and then obviously my big cousin Gaz up in Ohio. And then just to kind of, I call them the old men now because they've been around for so long. The Rick Mosses, your Johns, your Paul Robinsons, Anthony Pena, who obviously I've got a partnership with now for the ECNL. Just everybody that's kind of shown belief in me. I want to put that on there. Ed Piskerich, obviously, I've talked about him the last time. He gave me a lot about the last few years before I stopped playing. Yeah, that's people that I've always looked up to and I have the greatest respect for.
Hey everyone, I hope you all have enjoyed this week's episode of Chat by the Pitch. This is the end of the two-part series with CJ Sutherland and DFW United. I think the small independent club has a lot to offer if you're looking for that feel that he talked about, the things that he worries about as a coach and someone running the club. Those things are all important to all of us at the end of the day. And where we stand on those and our priorities for our players' development is important. Before you turn this off, go spend some time researching them. Maybe it is the club for you. I don't know, because at the end of the day, my philosophies are my philosophies. They are not your philosophies and the things that you need for your player development. If you're looking for more information on them, you can find it at the bottom of the show notes. Go search for them on social media or a search engine of some sort and look them up. It doesn't hurt you. Hey everyone, if you guys have enjoyed this podcast, have enjoyed what I've been trying to do, the messages that I'm putting out there, please give me some ratings, some stars on all the podcast sites that you listen to this on. Give me a review, share this, share with others. The more I can make this grow, the more I can continue doing this. I'm really trying to make a difference in our soccer community. So I hope you guys have enjoyed all this. And until next time, I'll see you at the pitch.